Hi everybody, it's Adam from Lucidpixul, and we have our latest Q&A. Now, some of these questions came from by email, some came from YouTube, but let's get to it. So our first question is from Jensing Chung. This actually I received by email, and he asks me, I'm working for a company at the moment as a game artist, and I have to create work for a client. There's a lot of feedback coming from them, but I just can't seem to nail the style they want, to the point that the boss actually hired another artist to temporarily help flesh out some of the designs. When this type of situation occurs, do you ever start to doubt your own skill as an artist? Or do you think it's the client? Okay, etc. Of course, because we can blame many things. We can blame ourselves, we can blame the client, we can blame the weather, we can blame our ex, whatever. This is my honest, professional advice to you. Take your ego out of the equation. And what I mean by ego is, don't look for somebody to blame. This is something that I see so many artists do. They get bitter, they get defensive, they go, oh, the client's an idiot, or I'm not good enough. They're blaming themselves, they're blaming somebody else. The bottom line is, this is a professional job. The bottom line is, this is a product, right? And the director's or the client's job is to make sure that they do their best to find the best to their ability, artistic style. Remember, artistic style very often resonates louder than skill, okay? Although skill is always important, okay? But they're looking for the most suitable. They're never going to get the perfect artist, but the most suitable artist for that particular project, okay? And when you're working for a client, it's up to you as the artist to choose the right clients. Okay, and that's what I mean by that is recognize what you're good at, recognize what you're passionate about, recognize the type of work that you like to do, and pick the type of work that you want. To be completely honest with you, I used to take every job I got, and I very often would run into a situation where I wasn't suited for it, and things didn't turn out well. Okay, like this. Okay, exactly like you're describing. What happens now is, I generally, whether I've got a lot of contracts coming in or very few, okay, because it always goes in waves. You're not always getting bombarded with contracts. It's not how it works, right? But when I get contracts, the average, I'd say I accept 1 in every 3 contracts that are offered to me, because whoever's approaching me might not necessarily understand the artistic workflow, might not understand everything about style and skill and everything like that. Just think of the amount of time it takes for you to learn these things, right? They're not always artists themselves. So in that particular case, I'll say, I'm always very polite about it. I'm never argumentative, and I say, well, I thank you very much for your offer, but I don't think I'm the best suited person. And sometimes it helps, if it's worth it, to say, maybe I can find somebody for you. But don't make that offer unless you're willing to come through on it, right? Don't put yourself out there to offer them help unless you're actually capable of doing it, right? If you don't know anybody who can do it and you're just trying to be polite, that might work against you. So, but if you can, and you do say, shit, well, I know my friend who's, he's more of a graphic designer, he'd be really well suited for this position. I give him a shout. I ask him, would you be available? If he says yes, I call the client back, I give the contact info, and that creates a nice professional rapport between me and the person who didn't even hire me, right? And they might recommend me to somebody else to say, oh, this guy's resourceful, right? He can find work for us. But remember, only offer that if you're capable. Also, don't blame yourself. You have a particular style. You're at a certain level of skill in your career. It's a yes or no for you, right? Sometimes you're almost there, and sometimes the client or the director can say, okay, with a little bit of training, we can get him up to speed in this particular thing. And very, very often that's a worthy investment because directors generally like to work with who they've already worked with, because it takes time to develop trust and a rapport with that particular artist, but sometimes not. And that's just the reality of it. So you as a professional should be able to take a third person perspective of your own work and say, am I suited for this or not? Yes, good, move forward. No, be honest and say no, and move and go in another direction. Okay? And don't invest your time into working on things that are only going to burn you out and maybe, cause some conflict or whatever with your studio. Now, if you're working for an actual studio, it very well might be that you were hired because you were good at that, but then they came in and brought a new project that's completely different, right? A very good example is a company like Ubisoft. Ubisoft in Montreal, at least the one in Montreal, how Ubisoft compares to a lot of other companies is the fact that they don't really function like one big company with different teams. They function more like a lot of companies, little small companies, all within the same building. So it's very common for them to hire somebody for 3 to 6 months or a year, depending on the project, and then let them go. and then call them back in a little while later and give them another job and let them go. And that's very common, okay? That artists come and go in and out of Ubisoft, okay? Artists very often come and go in and out of any studio because for this project we need that style, that project's finished, they get a new project, they're always rehiring, okay? There's a lot of that goes on. So that's the nature of the beast. So don't point fingers. If you're not good enough at certain things, if your anatomy isn't up to par, your rendering isn't up to par, or your colors aren't up to par, or your style isn't up to par, be honest and say, okay, I need work, or I need a mentor, or I need to do some more research on YouTube. I need to develop that skill and do it now. Don't wait till 10 years to do it. Because if you wait 10 years, you're just stretching out the uncomfortable stress. Spend a couple of months now, hit the grindstone, really work your ass off, perfect those things so you have confidence, and then you can approach work, professional work, with a lot more confidence. And when you're actually working, you'll be a lot more confident with your work. Okay, and that will help you everywhere. All right. Question number 2 comes from Jensing as well, and he writes, he asks, I understand you have family now, but how did you manage to balance your life as an artist when you were younger regarding social life, art progression, love life, etc.? I've had a job for over a year now, and sometimes I struggle to balance everything. Wondering if you had any tips in the matter. This is something I definitely feel I can give you a good answer to, because I've been on both sides of the fence. My life when I was just starting to work out as a professional, and even before when I was still in school, because I actually started to work in the field before I actually graduated from animation, and today, where I'm an independent artist and I do all my things today, right? And I can very much relate to what you're asking here, and this is how I feel, okay? This is what I feel at this point in my life. This is a 40-year-old's, or 39, whoa, okay? A 39-year-old's perspective on this. Earlier on in my career, and furthermore, I was also a student at the same time, I also had a girlfriend. A respectable, wonderful person, okay? Heart of gold. But she didn't really understand what it takes to be an artist, what kind of time and energy you have that you have to invest into being an artist. She actually worked as an accountant, okay? Now again, I want to really be clear here that I'm not bashing on her. I'm just stating a fact, okay? 2 different lifestyles. But at the same time, I was kind of trying to please everybody, and I was trying to yin yang myself in too many different directions. I really loved art, and I wanted to be a better artist, but I also loved her, and I wanted to, be with her. I wanted to invest my time and energy into her as well. And I had my family, and I had this, and I had that. And what I was doing was, it all starts with yourself. What do you need to succeed? What kind of time and energy is required of you to succeed as an artist? Okay? And this will be permanent. Whatever decision you make today at 18, at 20, at 25 years old is going to apply to the rest of your life. It's never going to change. Okay? So this is the kind of time and energy commitment that I need per day, per week, in order to move forward in a good, steady fashion and succeed. Okay? And it's going to take time. Okay? So this is something you really have to commit to. Once you've established that, once it's very clear to you what's required, okay, then you also have to ask yourself, how much time do I feel is a reasonable amount of time to balance life and family, okay, or work and family? Everybody gets everything that matters to you needs to be a full commitment on your part, okay? However, like I'm saying, you can't do both at the same time. You need your time to do your art, and you need your time to be with your family. And those lines should not cross, okay? So what I used to do in the past, what I did wrong was, I would say, okay, well, I think today I'm going to draw because I really have to practice and, blah, blah, blah. She's like, oh, okay, cool, that's fine by me. I said, do your own thing because I'm going to be busy and everything like that. She's like, okay, cool. And 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour would pass, and I've drawn half a hand, and then, are you done? No, I'm not done. I'm gonna be all day. It's nothing. It's not you. My own insecurities are coming through in my voice. No, it's not you, sweetie. I love you. You're peaches and cream. You're wonderful. You're out of that. But I gotta draw. And this is the kind of attitude I had about it. And she's like, oh, okay. And because I was insecure and because I was unclear, I'm worried about her getting mixed messages or getting the wrong message, and I'm kind of, as a result, giving her a mixed message. I don't want her to take it personally, but I'm making it a personal thing by being so overly sensitive about it, right? It's like, okay, all right. And 15 minutes later, are you done now? You know, I'm like, no, I'm not done now. You know, I'm going to be, you know, so I said, okay, I'm going to be a couple of hours at least, you know. And I'm being very generous because I'm probably thinking it's going to take about 6 or 7 hours, right? But I don't want to upset her. So it's this whole ambiguity that I was playing with that was creating this kind of like lack of clarity. Plus the fact that she was from a very different walk of life and didn't know what it takes. She didn't know the kind of time you put into this kind of thing. Artists spend many hours working and many hours training, okay? And what it led to was insecurity. It led to arguments. It led to me suffering in every domain. I suffered with the relationship. I suffered with my work. Everything suffered because I was trying to make everybody happy. And I wasn't setting clear boundaries and saying, this is my time to work and this is my time with you. Okay. And it was equally balanced. It's not like you get 2% and my work gets, 98%. No, it's 50-50. Okay. And that's a perfectly reasonable thing to do. Now, if we compare that to where I am today, I run an online school full time. I work as a freelance artist. I'm a father of 3. I'm a husband. I'm all of these things. Okay. I have a very, very, very demanding life, and and my YouTube channel and all of that, and I do things with Tyler and the whole song and dance. So I have a very, very full schedule, yet nothing gets neglected. I have plenty of time to work. I have plenty of time to spend with my kids. I have plenty of time to spend with my wife. Okay. Furthermore, my wife is also a very busy person. She's also a professional. Okay. So for her, she needs her time to do her thing. She needs her time to work on certain things. So we have a very mutual respect for each other's careers. Even though they're very different, she understands my work. I understand hers. Now, the advantage for her is that she works a 9-to-5 job, right? Where me, I don't have that. Nobody's sitting there saying, why aren't you at work? I have to discipline myself. I had to make that commitment myself. But from 9 to 5, Adam's working. If somebody sends me a Facebook message, I'll get back to you later. Okay, I close my Facebook. If somebody calls me, I'll say, yes, okay, I'm sorry, but I'm working right now. I'll call you after 6, and I hang up. Unless it's an emergency, okay? If my kids are sick, if something happens, then I'll make an exception, of course. But otherwise, if it's not an emergency, work is my priority right now, okay? And furthermore, I'm very clear about that time. I'm not saying, oh, I love you, sweetie, you're the best thing in the world, but, no, I say, no, I'm working now, sweetie, is anything up? Because I have something waiting for me. No, it's fine, I just want to say, okay, cool, well, I love you too, we'll talk later, okay? And that's the kind of conversations we have between 9 and 5. Now, at 5 o'clock, turn off my computer, I go and pick up my kids at daycare, I come home, I do the laundry, I clean the dishes, or at least I do my part, right? I cook dinner, I play with my kids, we have fun together. Then it's time to give them a bath and put them to bed. And at 8:30, 9 o'clock, they go to bed. And, except for Lucas, my 2-year-old, he doesn't sleep. So push that till 10 o'clock. Little bastard doesn't sleep. He doesn't sleep. But you get what I'm saying. But I'm not stressed about that because I've already had all day to work. I've spent all that time with my kids. Once they're in bed, if I have contract work or any other work that I've got to do, I do it then, or I do it on times during the week where I'm not teaching, okay? And I'm always using that time for what it's supposed to be, and I commit to it. The time I spend with my kids, I commit to the time with them. The time for my work is I commit to them, and I set very strict rules for myself professionally. And as such, even though I have all of these things to haggle, everything and everybody gets their just time, okay? Nobody ever feels like they're second best. Nobody ever feels like they take, they take the sidelines or they take the back road to my career, okay? And my career doesn't take the back road to my family. I have time for my work, I have time for my family, I have time for my friends, all right? And the time to go to the gym too, because I'm not going to sit in my chair for 10 hours or unless I want to die of a heart attack when I'm 45, right? So I have to take care of my health too. So just remember, commit, be clear, and if you're in the type of a relationship where that person cannot, if that person expects you to give them 24 hours of their attention or plays the whole jealousy game or the possessive game, if you're really serious about being an artist, then it might be time to look for another relationship. It's that simple. Our next question comes from my good friend and alumni of Lucidpixul. He says, Matt Maurizio. He says, how would it be possible to meet the client's wishes in terms of design and composition? If the client asks you to something crazy, is it right to say the client is always right? Because after all, it is my work that people see. That kind of brushes up on the question that Jensen had asked about whose fault is it type of thing. This is how I see it. I used to always have a bit of a defensive attitude. Whose fault is it? Is it my fault? Am I good enough? Is it the client who's being unreasonable? Blah, blah, blah. I've taken that out of the equation. I make that my last option. Sometimes clients in rare occasions can be dicks, okay? That does happen. And those people I very kindly and very respectably, I never yell or get defensive. I'm always being professional. I say thank you, but no thank you. And I move on, okay? But those are under rare circumstances. However, not all of your clients artistically are necessarily going to be artists themselves. They're not always going to be directors. Especially if you're working as a freelancer, there's a very good possibility, especially when you're building yourself up and you're getting yourself out there and you're building up clientele and your CV, that you might take other types of jobs. And such types of jobs that I've worked on, I did stuff for Remax, for instance. They were working on a commercial for real estate. My client was not an artist and did not understand the artistic workflow, right? What I could have done wrong, which I luckily didn't at the time, was if they asked me for something that was unreasonable, or if they said the very common thing, oh, it's no big deal, it's just, okay, which is a very good indicator to me, it's gonna be a lot. They just don't realize what goes into making this art. Is I'm not gonna jump down their throat if they say something that I sound unreasonable. Okay, I'm not going to go, you're an idiot, that doesn't work that way. Or, you don't know what you're asking, blah, blah, blah. Or I don't send them a 2-page email describing to them the history of art so that to school them, okay? Because I see that all too often. My attitude is, even though they're not artists, they're still professionals. These people run a business, and they have a certain budget for artists. Whether it's a reasonable budget or not, that's not for me to say, okay? But I have my own budget, my own amount of pay that I've committed to myself, and that's what I expect. And if I'm going to negotiate that at all, it's under certain conditions, right? But I'm never going to underbid myself by a large margin. If the client does not, a good example is one client I had. This wasn't the Remax one, but I had one client who asked me at one point, they wanted to do an illustration of kind of the scene with clouds, and there was 2 kids walking up a hill, right? So I'm doing this drawing and everything, and the feedback she sends back to me is, I want those clouds to move, okay? But this is a JPEG, right? It's a flattened PSD. So I kind of went, I wonder what that means, What does she mean by that? And I wrote back to her and I said, do you mean you want to put more movement in the clouds, She says, no, I want them to move. And she adds to it, it's not complicated, Adam. I want them to move. So I said, at that point, she was being a little bit insulting and dry with me, and I was like, okay, all right. Well, I know it's a known fact. You and I, as artists, understand it's a known fact that clouds, JPEGs, don't move. They're flat, static images, right? So I said, with all due respect, do you understand the difference between an animated scene and a painting, right? And she said, of course I do, blah, blah, blah. I said, okay, because these are the 2 options I'm offering you. If you want me to make it move, then I have to animate it. That means I'm not going to be doing it in Photoshop. I have to bring it into something like Flash, and I have to separate all the layers in this way, and then I can do an animation of that, right? And I can actually set some keyframes and physically move it in space over a period of time. Otherwise, if you want to convey a sense of movement, what I can do is add more wisps into the clouds. I'm giving her an option, and I'm being very careful not to insult her in the process. This is the person who's hiring me, okay? She's my client. In her particular case, she was a bit of a hard ass. She really wasn't unbending, and her attitude was very, no, I'm the boss, this is the way things work, and this is what it's going to be. I was forced into a position where I had to say, okay, well, if that's what you want, I unfortunately can't provide it for you, so perhaps you want to look for somebody else. I'm not going to tell her, I'm not going to send her long emails complaining. I'm not going to tell her that she's an idiot. She just doesn't understand, and she's not willing to bend, and I'm not capable of providing that for her. So be it. I'm sorry, find somebody else. In that particular case, she ended up saying, well, okay, if you want to make it wispy, blah, 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 because she realized she couldn't find another artist on short notice. She accepted what I gave her. It wasn't the greatest situation, but it all worked out in the end, okay? Otherwise, I would have left. Otherwise, I would have found another client. But at no point in time did I start to threaten or get defensive or start to spew a lot of like long drawn out emails. If you've ever done that, then you know what I'm talking about. You get all defensive, like, what the fuck are you asking for? Blah, 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 blah. The whole troll thing, I don't do that, okay? Because remember, it's a close-knit community and word spreads. If you're professional, even if it doesn't work out, it shows a lot of professionalism that you can work through a conflict in a diplomatic way, right? That says a lot about character. But if you're just a whiny bitch, then that's the reputation you're going to get, and that's the reality of it, okay? It's not the client's right. It's not your right. It's, can we reach a diplomatic solution together? Can we find a compromise when things aren't so cut and dry, okay? In the rare case that things aren't cut and dry, because that will happen in your career. Things are going to be a little bit shady at certain points. Can we find a mutual agreement? Can we find a compromise that works for us both? If we cannot, we go our separate ways cordially. If not, we move forward, okay? And that's really the bottom line. Question number 4 is from Matt as well, and he asks, how can I schedule? It could seem stupid. It might seem like a stupid question, but 1 week, one client, another week, another client. That's actually a good question because it's very hard to get that kind of information. Very often, like for me, I had to kind of learn on the job, and it was a bit of a stressful, it took me a long time to figure out what worked for me and what didn't. This is what I find works for me best today. I never, ever, ever, okay, bill by the hour. A lot of people still do that. Like I know there's even software on Macs and stuff like that that help you, bill by the hour and stuff like that. I personally find that's a big headache. It's like, and furthermore, I'm not a taxi. That's kind of my attitude about it. I'm not a taxi. I'm an artist. I'm a professional, I don't like that whole billing by the hour thing. But that's me. If you like billing by the hour, that's totally cool, okay? I just find it simplifies my workflow to bill by the day. But within that day, I'm working on, I'm breaking up the amount that I'm asking per day based on an hourly wage. If it's a particularly short contract that I know I'm going to be able to do in about 3-4 hours, then I'll bill half a day, but it's a fixed sum, or the full day. If it's going to be 3 days, then I can just, the math is easy. I'm not sitting there watching the clock. I'm not negotiating hours. I'm not trying to convince them and keep track of all my different, I was working this many hours on this minute. Some people even try to bill by the minute, and that's just ridiculous in my opinion. But that's how I like to work. That way, if it's a day or if it's a week or if it's a month and they're asking me to send them a quote, the quote I send them is very specific, okay? I'm not saying, well, I guess I can ask you for this much, because when people hear that, if they hear like, oh, okay, I'll ask you for, $50 for this. Of course, I'm giving you a ridiculous number. Don't ever work for $50 unless it's for like 25 minutes of work, but okay, maybe an hour, but that kind of money you should never agree to. But I'm just giving you a hypothetical ridiculous amount. Let's say, for a day it's $50. For a week it's 50 times 5, $250. There you go. I have a specific amount in my head per hour. So when I'm billing, I send a very specific number. A specific number is a very good way of showing that you've done the math, you've done your homework, okay? And that's another sign of professionalism. So I'm not going to send them, oh, okay, I'll do it for you for 500, No, I'll do it for you for $556, okay? Why? Because my hourly wage is this much, and that calculates to that much per day. That calculates to that much per week. That calculates to that much per month. It's a lump sum, okay? When do I negotiate this? Well, it depends on who I'm working for. If I'm working for a big company, then I don't bend one penny on my amount. That's my fee. If you want somebody cheaper, go ask somebody else. That's my attitude about it, okay? If I'm working for an independent person, which I don't always do, okay? But if I do, if it's an independent project, some guy that's kind of just starting his own little company up and he needs a couple of pieces of artwork, and he doesn't quite have the same kind of budget that a studio will have, right? I might negotiate a bit, but I do not cut myself. I don't cut myself off at the knees. If I'm asking for 500, I'm not going to settle for 250. If I'm asking for 450, maybe I'll knock it down to 400 or 425, but I won't bend further than that. Because this is my time and you're asking for a professional. You're asking for a professional. Well, you're going to get professional work and you're going to be charged a professional fee, right? I'm not going to cut myself in half and work for something less than minimum wage. That doesn't work for me, okay? However, here's a little bit of honesty for you in terms of the industry. To me, as far as work is concerned, there is a fine line between what it can offer your career and what it can offer you in terms of finances. And when it comes to something like that, it's not such a cut and dry answer, okay? What I mean by that is, imagine, just close your eyes right now and imagine your dream job, okay? The job you wish, that's your milestone. That's the top bar for you, okay? Imagine that dream job that you know is going to be the best work in the world to do, and it's going to launch your career in the direction you want it to go, okay? Picture that. Now picture how much money you think you might want for that type of job, okay? But this is your dream job. I'm not just talking about any stupid contract. I'm talking about your dream job, okay? You know, maybe you want to be a trading card game artist, or maybe you want to, you know, or maybe you want to work in a video game studio, or whatever the case might be, okay? This is your dream job, okay? Now picture how much you think would be a reasonable amount to ask per hour for it, or for you know, one of the contracts to do one of these designs, okay? Now cut it into a quarter, okay? Literally knock 75% off of that amount. Would you still do it? No, we're talking about your dream job, right? We're talking about a job that's gonna really, it's like wow work, okay? But now the amount that they're offering you is peanuts. Okay, it's really low, like amazingly low. Like, holy shit, if anybody else in the world ever asked me to this, I would spit my coffee across the table, okay? Well, that's the reality of the industry. That as it certainly stands in certain industries, and I'm talking about the big ones. I'm talking about the big ones that you love, okay? That salary can be, that amount that you're getting paid for the work can be incredibly low. But if they offer to you, if they call you tomorrow and say, hey, Patricia, would you like to work for us? Are you going to say, for that amount? No, fuck you. Okay? Okay? So to me, the reason why, should you feel bad? Should you feel guilty that you're contributing to the exploitation of artists? Okay? No, because that's not, in my opinion, that's not for you to say. Okay, that's not. Yes, you have certain standards, but you also have a career to develop. You also want to develop a reputation for yourself. You also want to go somewhere with yourself. So certain jobs might not pay very well right now, but what they're going to do for your overall career is substantial. Then ask yourself the question, would I do that job for free? I'm not saying do it for free. I'm saying, would you do it for free? Okay, that's how I answered these questions when those questions came up for me. It made it very easy for me to answer and not get stressed and not feel screwed. Would I do this for free? Well, the only reason you can do it for free is A, if you already have another job that will help sustain you financially, or B, you have someone who can help sustain you financially who's willing to handle the weight of the finances for a little while you work on this job that's paying peanuts, right? You have to be able to answer that question. Am I capable and willing to do this for free? You're still going to take whatever crappy amount they're willing to offer you, okay? Or maybe negotiate a little bit more, but you know, if it's crap, it's going to be very crappy or very crappy not so, right? But if you can answer, of course I would do this for free, well then accept the damn job, okay? Accept it, because what it's going to offer your career is substantial. But if it's not going to offer your career anything, then fuck them, okay? And say, no, this is my fee, this is how much I need to survive, and pay me it or take a hike. But of course, you know me. I'm not going to tell you to tell people to take a hike, Be nice about it. Just thankfully say no, okay? You have to weigh those two things. Now, when I was faced with this situation, I went, whoa, what? You're offering me what for that? Like, Jesus, that's, my gut reaction when I saw the offer, I was like, oh my God, that's frighteningly low, right? And I immediately was like, oh my God, what do I do? Can I negotiate this? So this was my response. I responded saying, listen, I've been a member of this industry for a long time. I even in my point in my career, I had the ability to say, and I am a senior artist, right? I've been doing this for a long time. But I definitely do love this project. This is definitely, you know, a wonderful project that I'm very excited about. However, you know, I am aware of all of the talk and the politics that have been going around about, you know, how much these artists are getting paid and blah, blah, blah. I'm well aware of all the conversations online about it. I'm a very active member of this community. If you can negotiate something better, then I greatly appreciate it. If you can't, I understand, because I know that I'm talking to an HR representative. They're not the accountant. They're not the one handling the budget. They have a job. They're standing, they sit at their desk and they're trying to bring in this talent. They can negotiate a bit of the salary, but they're not the one calling the shots with finance, right? So I'm not going to bitch at her about it, nor am I going to bitch to the big boss. They're getting a lot of flack from the industry already. That conversation's already going on, and hopefully changes are made soon. But this job is important enough to me that I will accept it for whatever for that or something slightly better if you can offer it. It's not going to be substantial, but I'll take what I can get. Why? Because it's worth doing it for free. That's how much I value that particular type of work, okay? That particular job. And that's what I had to weigh, okay? But under any other circumstance, when people, I have very often been approached and said, well, you're going to get lots of exposure for your work, you know? And I'm like, well, what kind of exposure? Oh, well, it's going to be hung up in the gallery, in a golf course, and you're going to make lots of money, you know? Because I don't know why I'm using a Polish accent, you know? But I don't know, my family's Polish, you know? But like, you know, you're going to get substantial. I think I was talking to a Polish person at the time. It was actually, yeah, it was a client in Poland, you know, and they said, oh, lots of exposure. And I said, where? Well, at a golf club. I was like, what the fuck do I care about a golf club? You know? Why? It's just some rich people can go, cheers, cheers, cheers. What the fuck do I care? That's not going to do anything for my career, you know? And for a golf club. Now, if it was going to be posters in the Comic-Con and all this kind of shit and all over the place and TV spots and okay, maybe I'll reconsider, right? You know, as Confider, they're not asking me to do this for 6 months. God knows I can't do that for 6 months. But if it's for like a couple of day contract, sure. But that kind of exposure is meaningless to me, you know? So I was like, sorry, no. You're offering me a very... So it's definitely far too... It's below my... It's going too far in terms of cutting my personal budget. So unfortunately, no. Unless you can offer me something that's double that, then forget it, you know? And that was it. But do understand that there is weight in a reputable job. There is a lot of weight in a reputable job that can translate into other good jobs that do pay substantial amounts of money. It's a stepping stone, a very important stepping stone in your career, okay? Don't put all the blame on yourself for accepting a job like that, but do make sure that you can sustain yourself or the person that you're with is generous and selfless enough to be able to support you for that period of time that you're working on it. Okay, you have to weigh those different things. But if you have an option, that's my personal advice on how you solve that problem. So, hopefully you've enjoyed our little quick Q&A today. Remember, if you have any questions that you'd like answered as well, you can just leave a comment down below in the video. And if you're interested in Lucidpixul, in the mentorship itself, remember it's a first come first serve thing, and I can only satisfy 10 students per week. Get your mind out of the gutter. I can only address the needs of 10 students per week. So, you know, I have availability when it's available. So you can get in touch with me at mentorship@lucidpixul.com. You can check out the email address, and don't forget to subscribe if you enjoy these videos. Take care.